podcast like this. Please don't. Ready? For Gavin.
Yeah.
You gotta keep an eye on that.
Yeah, just so I can like look at it and see that it's working, you know?
But every time we do this, you record it, you hit record, inevitably the screen will go off, and every time we've ever recorded an episode, you'll go, might not be recording from now on. You're going to touch it to find out, and you're like, no, because that might fuck it up.
I don't think I've ever once said, no, I'm not turning this back on.
You never turn it back on. You just leave it blank.
I feel kind of like how you don't say Macbeth, like in a theatre, we shouldn't talk about
the laptop.
Because the laptop is not good. The laptop is... Oh, bless her. I don't know how she lasted this long and how we've recorded over 100 episodes.
To take it out. You need to take it out to pasture. Put old Bessie to bed.
But she served us so well. I like how we're both just looking off camera at this laptop, and she's looking back at us, being like, "Say
she
what?"
Looks sad.
She's like, "Come on, say something. Make fun of me."
It's that cheese from yesterday. It's done a number on me. That fucking reeks. It stinks.
I just, for some reason, I have it in my mind that we're going to be better. But I don't think we ever will be better at this.
I've reached a point in my career, both in this podcast and professionally, where done is better than perfect.
God, that really stinks.
It's horrible.
What's wrong with you?
I ate cheese yesterday. I told you.
It's Meandering Movies. It's Meandering Movies. It's Meandering Movies. So won't you lend an ear?
Welcome back to the Meandering Movie Podcast. That's right, we're finally back and we're recording together. I'm looking at you. How is that? Because we're in video now. We exist on YouTube.
If you're on Spotify,
but
where this episode will be going as well, dual released, none of this matters to people on Spotify. Yeah,
but we have to appease both audiences. I have to talk to them at the camera and talk to them through the mic.
I'm just saying.
This is episode 1 of season 4 of the Meandering Movie Podcast.
Yeah, I need to get back in. I need to get energy. I need to get energized.
Sit the fuck up and stop farting.
Right. Yeah. Right.
After
season 4. I think the problem is, genuinely,
I love how I've got like a whole spiel in my head I want to work through, but you're just like, just let me talk all over and interrupt. We're back after our long hiatus. This is season 4, episode 1. Season 3 lasted genuinely 22, 23, 24, like 3 years it took us to get through season 3.
One episode a month, right?
Yeah, but in the beginning it was 6 months between episode 1 and episode 2. So we recorded episode 1 of season 3 and then 6 months later came back for episode 2. So yeah, it took us 3 years to get through season 3. Season 4 will not be like that. It'll be very different. For example, what's what?
That little thing with the dots on it. What is that?
It's a keyboard.
No. On the side, that rock.
No one can see this.
What is that? I can see it. What is it?
Oh, that thing. Oh, that was something my girlfriend bought in Copenhagen. It's like a wee incense holder.
Oh, right. What's it got around it?
I don't know. It's
shells or rocks.
I think it's like clay or something.
Oh, my mic was off.
Was it?
Yeah, this whole time.
No, it wasn't. I can see it coming through.
Yeah, because I just turned it on.
No, it was definitely coming through.
It wasn't. I've just turned it on.
We're back, everyone. And we're worse than ever. We never usually sit like this. We're sitting like this because, well, why are we sitting like this, Gary?
Hey, Spotify, you can't see us. So none of this matters.
Yes, but for the people on the YouTube, they can see it.
They don't care. This is the first time they've seen how we record. This could be... Actually, you know what? This is exactly how we record, and we've done it for the last 5 years. I don't know what you're talking about.
We've sat as far away from each other.
We always sit side by side on this couch, and we record episodes of this podcast. I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you doing this?
Why are you trying to fuck with me?
Why are you making this a thing?
It's just weird to do it this way. We've only ever done it this way once, and that was when we did the Elf movie commentary.
I don't know why you're lying. Who for the people?
Oh, now you're allowed to look at the camera?
I need to get I'm in the wrong mind frame for this.
Do you want to start all over again?
I mean, maybe. I need to get into the...
1, 2, 3. The Meandering Movie Podcast, airing through your ears. Gavin brings the brains and laughs and edits through the tears. Gary's got the chaos and the taste that's razor sharp. Together they're a double act, a podcast work of art. From deep dives to wild rides, no film is left unturned. Gavin tries to keep the structure tight, while Gary let it burn. Once the calm, the other storm. Listening if you dare. When they talk your mouth so hard, you'll get for some air. The Meandering Movie Podcast. Yeah!
If I needed to be, and I'm ready for it now.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3, let's go. Go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, you're going to say go over me saying that.
I won't. 1, 2, 3, let's go.
Hello,
go.
everyone. Stop doing it. Hello and welcome back to the Meandering Movie Podcast. After a long hiatus of bonus episodes and live episodes, we are back together in the same room recording. This is episode 1 of season 4 of the Meandering Movie Podcast.
Whoop, whoop. We're here.
After 3 years in season 3, we've finally left it behind. We've moved on. We've entered the digital video age.
For all our listeners on Spotify, you can also watch this on YouTube.
Yes, if you're listening, you can watch it. If you're watching it, you can continue listening to it.
If you're watching it, you need to go to Spotify, which you will struggle because we're not putting the sound on YouTube. It's like a puzzle.
It's like a puzzle.
We're only putting the visuals on YouTube. We're only putting the sound on Spotify. So you need to somehow jigsaw it together. We don't know how to use video editing software. We're sorry. We only know how to film and to record separately. I'm so sorry, guys.
Good luck. Yeah, so we obviously recorded a live... Stop farting into the mic. We recorded a live episode back in February 2025.
End of Jan, beginning of Feb, yeah.
Yeah, we recorded a live episode in front of a beautiful audience to celebrate the 100th episode. So this is now episode 101 officially of the podcast. Stop fart. If anyone hears outdoor noises, it's because I've had to open the door because he keeps farting because he had cheese last night.
I had cheese by accident last night. None is said in Glasgow, who were excellent
Why
about
have you got
it.
to bring them into it?
Because that's why I ate the cheese.
Anyway.
And meat.
You ate you?
I ate what? Yeah, I ate meat. Meat.
So
did you see the Nintendo Switch?
Shut up. Now people can see me scold you, which is great.
What's even better is they can also see my little face every time when you go, and I go, that was the plan all along.
With season 4, we had grand plans to make it epic and brilliant, but as you can see, it's still shit as always. But our chat will be fun.
I don't think this is shit. I think this is good. I think it's cozy.
It is cozy.
I like
but
it.
Don't reference how we're sitting, though. We're not allowed to talk about how we're sitting.
Okay.
Because that's a conversation that happened. Stop playing foot. See, this is why I don't like sitting next to you, because you try to touch me.
What are we recording today, Gav?
We were recording the first episode of season 4 of the Meandering Movie Podcast, in which we decided to attack something big.
We wanted to do something big for episode
something lofty.
Season 4, episode 1, a big thing.
We're going to find... What are we actually doing? Oh, we're going to... We're going to explore which decade had the best films, and by the end of this episode have a definitive answer of which decade was best for cinema.
Definitive.
We're only starting at the 70s though, because
But what about the talkies?
because Gary hasn't really seen anything before that, I don't think.
What are you talking about? I've seen loads of stuff from the 40s, 50s and 60s.
He didn't make Digimon movies in the 40s and 50s.
I watched Betty Boop.
Okay.
I've seen that. That's a short. The first animated one was from 1953.
All right, so do you want to start at the 50s then?
What's from the 40s? Laurel and Hardy. Were they 40s? Seen them.
So we're going to start at the 70s because I feel that's an easy place for most people who are listening or watching to follow along.
Yes.
I already know which is the best decade for film.
You know? You already know. Categorically, you're locked in.
I'm locked in because here's why. I did my research before we started. Gary showed up. So having looked at all the films through the decades, I already know what the answer is and what I'm predicting. I've put it in an envelope somewhere, but I don't know where it is, of what we will both agree is the best decade by the end of this episode.
You're going to say the 70s or 80s, categorically.
Maybe.
I know that for a fact.
We're going to go 70s,
you're
80s,
an old
90s.
man trapped in the past who refuses to accept that cinema can be something transcendental.
I was really hoping you were going to say an old man trapped in a young man's body.
No, you're an old man trapped in an old man's body. You're like a Benjamin Button.
I feel like
when we first met, you looked so bad, and you're getting better and better by the day.
I'm getting healthier.
You're getting healthier.
Now you can see my health progress on YouTube.
Stop talking about it.
It's new. It's different. We've never been on YouTube before, minus the live episodes.
Do you know what's Cool.
What is cool?
Not referencing the fact that we're on video.
Okay, after this conversation, I will don't finger gun them. I will never reference you or talk to you ever again after this sentence. There we go.
You can still talk to them.
No, talk to who? The 70s is where we're going to begin. I feel the 70s was a formative time in cinema for both. The way you looked at me, I thought you were going to interrupt me. Formative time in cinema. And the reason I think this is, I don't like the way I'm sitting because I feel like I look pretentious saying these things and sitting like this, is...
This is worse.
Yeah, it's fair. That's not better. It was a formative time in cinema.
Happy that the camera's on now? I said we could scrap it, and you were like, no. And now you're like...
Because we have to
every
be on
time you
camera.
move your legs, you're like, oh, Christ, am I sitting correctly? Just talk about the 70s. Tell me.
70s was a formative time in cinema, and here's why. It's because it was a free time for filmmakers to come up and explore and make whatever the fuck they wanted and just get infinite budgets to make the maddest shit or some of the most influential shit. For like the 70s, you've got the Godfather movies, 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. In fact, anything by Francis Ford Coppola, like Apocalypse Now or The
Star
Conversation.
Wars was 79, right?
A New Hope came out, obviously. That's probably one of the most influential movies ever made. Mm-hmm. You've got Chinatown. You've got Taxi Driver. A lot of the stuff by Martin Scorsese at the time as well. And then you've got lots of weird, bigger movies. But it was a time where Steven Spielberg also came with Jaws and everything. He kind of came up during that time. It was a time where directors were free to make and create before we move on to the next decade, where things became a lot more kind of contained.
Give me the big numbers. Give me the big hit, the biggest. How many have you got? 10, 15, 20 films? Like the biggest pows. Godfather 1 and 2 is huge. Jaws, Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Don't know what Chinatown is.
Chinatown with Jack Nicholson, directed by a director who's he's a bad man. But Chinatown was incredibly influential. It's like a kind of neo-noir set in the LA in the 70s. Uh-huh. Jack Nicholson investigating what the big companies are doing in LA. That was a time where LA
Name films Gary would know.
Well, this is the problem with the 70s though, is there's a lot of movies I don't think you will have heard of.
Dumbo? Which Disney films are coming out in the 70s?
Oh, I don't know.
Jungle Book?
No, it was Jungle Book not the 60s?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking you.
See, the problem is...
You're the notes man.
Well, originally I had everything set up on the laptop, but she's over there.
She is.
And I'm over here.
Speak to us, laptop.
I hate that you can do it on command.
I can't, I'm just tired. Luckily, every time you've referenced the laptop, I've had a wee Trump in me.
You've had a wee Trump in me. I mean, what were some of your favourite movies from the 70s?
I don't fucking know. I could do the 80s. I feel like the 70s... It's mainly because I don't know what... I actually can't pin what came out in the 70s. I appreciate what you're saying, that those are big films from the 70s, but what else? What else was the 70s?
We're looking at Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, Chinatown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Godfather 2, The Conversation, Apocalypse Now, The French Connection movies, The Exorcist, Jaws, The Wicker Man, The Omen, Clockwork Orange, Star Wars.
Yeah, so these are like
The Deer Hunter,
classic films.
Kramer versus Kramer, Close Encounters, American Graffiti, National Lampoon. Like, the list goes on and on.
That was a significant drop off quickly, though. When you say the list goes on and on, those last 3, maybe 4, I'm like, I appreciate they are big names, but also,
I mean,
I would argue that the first, 10 you said there, history. You know what I mean? Like absolutely locked in, star-studded. If you're talking about cinema, if I'm into a film lecture about the 70s and they told those 10 films, I was like, yeah, cool. Then the final 4, which was like National Lampoons, and then the 3 before that, I was a bit like, oh, okay, well that's a real drop. Like that's a real dump in quality.
The other important
you didn't answer my question either. What Disney films came out? What kids films came out in the 70s?
Because you're a big fucking...
Well, I'm just interested because I feel like how influential was the 70s for children's movies as well. And the art of the animated feature. What did you just Google there?
70s movies.
Why don't you just Google highest grossing films in the 70s? What? What have we got?
I just typed in Disney 70s movies, and the first one that comes up is The Aristocrats.
Not bad. The Aristocats, not the Aristocrats. The Aristocats.
You got Robin Hood. Herbie Rides Again.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Peach Dragon. Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Freaky Friday, but not the
Not the Lindsay Lohan version.
not Lindsay
the
Lohan
original.
one. Yeah, the Planet of the Apes movies were done by Disney at the time, apparently. Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Fuck, man. See, this. You're hiding all the fucking gold. Rocky Horror Picture Show with Tim Curry? That was 70s? I thought that was 80s.
No, it's 70s.
Man, 70s were fucking class.
Kids 70s movies.
I feel like you listed off all the like ones that you listed off all the films that when I speak to people who like films, they say those films, and my brain instantly goes like, man, how boring.
Oh, Bugs. We got Willy Wonka, which was 1971.
See, like this is much more engaging.
Superman the movie.
The first one.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve. Black Stallion. Winnie the Pooh. Swallows and Amazons. The Barefoot Executive.
We've got into the and we now got these weird Disney films, which is like my dad turned into a dog, but is also a banker.
Tom Sawyer, Napoleon and Samantha. Never heard of any of this shit. Sounder? Is that not a sex thing? Anyway,
there you go. More interesting.
Well, I feel like kids' movies 70s not as.
Well, so if that was where if you said Robin Hood, didn't you? So that means that was the time when the Disney Animation Studio was struggling. Because Robin Hood, for anyone that doesn't know, Robin Hood was compiled of shots from Jungle Book and Snow White and various other ones that they just rotoscoped over because Disney were like, fuck, we spent too much money on the last one, we're broke.
Yeah,
can't afford animators, can't afford...
This is so time consuming and this is so expensive.
So they just rotoscoped a bunch of old scenes and kind of Frankenstein Robin Hood together.
I think the good thing that we know from that now is that Disney didn't stick with that business plan and thought, let's just make new original stuff, and they didn't just redo the same
Start
shit.
redoing the same
over
old
and over
slop.
again.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
they learned their lesson in the 70s and never looked back.
Because Snow White came out in the 30s, and they thought, that's it, we don't need to do this again.
Well, they had that. So 70s,
we don't need to touch that again.
70s was So 70s was when they were struggling. Then they had the Renaissance in the kind of like late 80s, early 90s.
It's weird though, because I feel like...
Anyway, that's later. That's later chat.
Well, that's later chat. The other big chat that has to come from the 70s is horror, because two of the most influential...
Freddy and Jason.
That's not what I was going to say, because those are the 80s.
Okay.
Two of the most influential horror movies.
Once again, Gavin, I just want to put this one out there. Remember, I did no research, and I'm guessing when films came out.
Well, that's why I'm here.
I know. But I'm just like, you looked at me there like I'm an idiot, and I'm just telling you now, it's because I don't know what I'm talking about. Rosemary's Baby?
Yes, but the two movies I'm going to talk about you have seen and do know is, first off, Halloween, slasher, introduction.
Yeah, Jason Voorhees.
No, that's not Jason Voorhees. Halloween is Michael Myers.
Mike Myers.
Have you seen a movie before?
Friday the 13th is Jason Voorhees.
And then Nightmare on Elm Street is Freddy.
Yeah.
And guess when they came
Freddy
out?
Krueger.
Guess when they came out?
You said the 80s.
Yeah, and guess what we were talking about?
70s.
Yeah, we go. Fucking
Sharon G's Gavin.
You got Halloween, the introduction of the slasher genre from John Carpenter. What's the other one? we have?
Exorcist.
Well, The Exorcist did come out in the 70s, but I was thinking Alien. Alien came out
Thing.
That came out in the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was 1982.
Okay. Alien.
Unless you want to talk about the 1950s version of The Thing. Which came out.
We're not doing the 50s.
Yeah.
You said we weren't going to do 50s, 60s
Yeah,
because
so
you didn't think I'd seen any of those films. Alien and
Halloween,
the slasher.
Exorcist. 3, I think, seminal.
Good word.
Yeah. 3 seminal movies in the horror genre that in different ways changed the landscape for them. I think The Exorcist changed the landscape of horror in terms of horror being seen and respected, kind of like in the Academy status. It was like, this is a movie that is not just schlocky. Then you've got Halloween, which is the creation of the slasher genre, John Carpenter, and then that just catapulted, like the 80s was slasher movies because of Halloween, and then you've got Alien, which is sci-fi horror that's kind of a slasher that then kicked off this monster movie alien like sci-fi horror. And I think those all came from the 70s. And that's the thing with the 70s is the range of movies that they have.
Yeah.
Whether it's the high-end classics, like on people's top 10s or number ones with The Godfather and Apocalypse Now and Chinatown and stuff like that. The kids' movies maybe not as great, like we said, with the Renaissances. And then with your horror genre, those 3 movies in different ways made what the 80s was.
It all molded the future of cinema.
Yeah.
I think what is a very interesting point there that you brought up is that a lot of the films you did just list are, in my opinion, you could probably trace the roots further back if you wanted to do the 60s, 50s. You could probably be like, well, actually, technically, this is the birth of the buddy cops, or the birth of the gangster film, and that's really the root of it. However, I do agree, like a lot of the films you've just listed feel like the full on tentpoles, the granddaddies of the genre for a lot. So Apocalypse, Godfather, Alien,
Star Wars. You know what I mean? There are so many films, Jaws as well,
that all launched in the 70s. That you're right, 100%. Like, holy shit, that is
because with a lot of those films, the way those filmmakers, like the reason those came about is the filmmakers, like your Francis Ford Coppola's, your Steven Spielberg's, your John Carpenter's, is they were definitely influenced by lots of movies that came from the 40s and 50s, but those movies haven't necessarily stood the test of time because people don't think about them or reference them. The movies people reference and think started it is these movies from the 70s, and it's because all of these directors and these filmmakers had this kind of freedom to just go out, here's $20 million, make us something, and then Steven Spielberg comes back with Jaws, which was a blockbuster, like the first blockbuster movie.
And like, for example, as well, watching the ILM documentary on Disney Plus and them talking about Star Wars, where it was just like they just had people turning up and they're like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're going to be filming a sci-fi movie. And they're like, cool. And they're like, well, we need a storyboard artist. And the guy's like, yeah, I can do that. It's like, you've just walked into this random garage because you saw like them holding a camera outside and you said you're a storyboard. I was like, yeah, I'm a storyboard. I was like, cool. And then it cuts to like the modern day interview. He's like, I'd never drawn a storyboard in my entire life. And it's like, what the fuck? This film was just created on magic wishes and fucking money dust.
Yeah, there was none of this like studio oversight and control.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the end of the 70s where the budgets became astronomically stupid, which is interesting. We're almost like that again at this point, which we'll get to soon. God, I'm good at this. The astronomical budgets became insane. The movies became perhaps a little too self-indulgent and too long. That's kind of my thing. There was no studio oversight when it came to a lot of that stuff. Directors were kind of left free to just roam. Here's $20 million. Go make whatever madness you're going to make. But then, because of the success that your Francis Ford Coppola's or your Steven Spielberg's all had, the budget started to balloon for a lot of people. The ideas started to go bigger. And by the end of the 70s, you had movies that were these, like, Once Upon a Time in New York, for example, this massive 3-hour plus, like, magnum opus of a movie. So expensive, such a kind of art housey, wanky, like, awards movie, but never was ever going to make this money back that it did. And so the
I've not even heard of it. What is it like? What's it called?
Once Upon a Time in New York. Yeah.
Like Tarantino's film.
So there's like the Once Upon a Times in Mexico and New York. So
I've heard of Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
So different directors have taken the name, changed the and played with it. Once Time in New York was like,
yeah, because in that ILM documentary, Lucas and Spielberg,
because they all went to the same film school together.
But whoever it is, who did Star Wars?
George Lucas.
So from my memory, it was Spielberg.
Because those two did Indiana Jones together.
Right. But there's an interview with one of them, and they're like, yeah, we had a lot of money from the studio, and I went away to London to shoot shit, and I came back and was like, what have you got to show me? And up to that point, all the interviews with the guys that were left in California were like, it was amazing. We'd made our own jacuzzi out of special effects shit. And we'd done this and we'd done that and we'd done all this shit and we just fucked around and had a great old party. And then it's like an interview with Lucas being like, yeah, I came back from London. And I was like, show me what you've got. And everyone scattered like roaches. And I was like, mother of God. Fuck.
What have I done?
Yeah, Lucas seemed pretty fucking stressed about the budget.
I guess it's also like, when you then fold into the 80s was like America at its height of, there was lots of money flowing about, there was lots of drugs flowing about, flashy cars, women in scantily clad clothing. I'm sure Michael Bay was fucking raging he didn't exist in the 80s to just do whatever the fuck he wanted. Like when you look at 80s now, I feel like, so the 70s was so formative for film going forward and for filmmakers going forward, but I feel like the 80s was so formative and so inspirational for people going to the cinema. Like when we think of the movies that we love when we were kids or growing up, we're going to name so much from the 80s, whether it's
100%. Even without realizing it, like I think there's so many films in my kind of like formative film loving years that are 80s, beyond 80s coded.
And then if you look at where cinema is now, it touches back to the 80s for the nostalgia. Like so much of it is just like, oh, why don't we do that movie because it's really popular in the 80s, or this TV show it's really popular in the 80s, and people were like, is the audience still around for that? I mean, it's easy nostalgia. Like,
because what's 80s 50 years ago now?
Yeah.
Right? 45.
Every time we do the math thing, I just say yes to you, but it's never right. And then my girlfriend's always just like, yeah, you're so far off.
10-9, naughty, 10-20.
Oh my God, it's 50 years ago.
The 80s
and it's still...
I'm so sorry to our 80s born listeners, but...
it's because the 80s, in terms of cinema...
No, that can't be right. I was born in the 90s and I'm 33.
No, it's 40 years. Is it not? Or are we going from the beginning of the 80s?
80s, 90s, noughties, the 10s, the 20s.
I mean...
5 decades.
Are we counting the 20s, though?
We're in the 20s.
I guess we're 5.
If you were born in 1980, you'd be 45.
Yeah. My God. Just had to sit with that for a moment. But with the 80s... oh, good, your phone's vibrating.
I know. I was checking it. I thought it was an emergency.
Do you remember how you left your phone over there so you wouldn't play with it?
I thought it was an emergency phone call. It's just my phone. It's just a lot of people texting me about an emergency.
What's the emergency?
Godzilla's in. He's out.
Oh, no.
Godzilla's in America.
Wait, no, Godzilla's in or out? It's like, Gary, Godzilla's out. Get down here now.
No, Godzilla's in. Godzilla's in on the pitch.
No, he's
in on the pitch. He's bringing 100,000 for 5% of the company, which is crazy.
What's the company? Come on, play.
It's the company Godzilla has gone in on is a revolutionary new company, which is scooping up fish directly from the ocean, chumming them in the air, and then you can drop the chum wherever you want.
Why would you want that?
Well, not the average person doesn't, but for someone like Godzilla who needs food on the go, it's the equivalent of like a Trek bar or something that you could buy at any, or like a Graze box. Godzilla can now on the app put in their GPS location, and then within hours a giant ball of chummy fish will be airdropped to Godzilla's location for them. Well, if Godzilla's in Southeast Asia and the Chinook helicopters are in the Canada or something, it's kind of, and you've got to chum the fish. It's a process, but it's better than what Godzilla was doing, which is just swimming around with his mouth open. What does Godzilla even eat? Do we know? Other than other monsters?
Well, in the 1999 version,
Broderick,
the Roland Emmerich one, he ate fish. What did you call him?
I said Broderick.
All right, I thought you okay. Because I was going to put that into the cut of you not being able to say names.
Broderick.
It's also how you said Chinook earlier, but I just let it pass.
Chinook helicopters.
Chinook.
What did I say?
Chinook.
Oh, fuck off. That's semantics.
You're saying Chinook. It's Chinook.
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 Did I say it wrong?
Chinook helicopters.
Here's my question.
It's the same fucking word. We're saying the same thing.
Other than Godzilla, who else is using this service?
Well, no, there's a reason Godzilla's bringing so much money.
Also, he's only 5%. He's only going in
10%. He's only bringing 100,000. But if he brings more, we'll offer more of the company.
I don't think this is a good business plan.
What, for Godzilla or for me? I mean, I'm 100k up currently. I'm in a sweet spot.
Yeah, but is he someone you want to stinge?
That's a good point. I'll come to that when interestingly enough,
cross that bridge when he stomps on it.
Interestingly enough, I received an email recently about a Godzilla defense system, and they're offering me 5% of the company for the low price of £80,000. So if I get in on the ground floor of that, I'll be 20,000 profit, and I'll be safe from Godzilla. The only one getting shafted will be Godzilla at that point. Unless the defense guy does what I'm doing to Godzilla, in which case I'll be shafted.
I think no matter what, you're getting shafted.
Anyway, the 80s. Chummed fish.
The 80s was like chummed fish in a way.
How? Stick to that metaphor, please. No, I'd like to see the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not letting you get away with that one.
The 80s. I'm just trying to make bridges out of the fucking molehills you're putting in my way. What? The 80s was excess, you know? It was excess.
Yes.
Whether
McDonald's.
it's the product placement, the music, the colours.
Demolition Man.
The scantily clad woman. Demolition Man, of course. What else? That was the 90s, but thanks for playing, Gary. You could have picked any movie. And you picked Demolition Man from the 90s when we're talking about the 80s.
Total Recall.
That is the 80s. Well done.
There you go.
Who is
the
it?
best movie of the 80s.
You think that Total Recall is the best movie of the 80s?
I was thinking about Total Recall the other day, and it's really good.
What? Who's it? Oh, it's your guy did RoboCop that did Total Recall, but I've forgotten his name.
Roland Emmerich.
Nope, not Roland Emmerich. It was Chinook. That's who it was.
Chinook.
It was Chinook.
The Apache Chief.
The 80s was excess in every way imaginable. And kind of like how every decade, I feel like it starts somewhere and it just runs and it sees how far it can take it. And then the story that always happens with the 80s is the movie Rolling Thunder with Tom Cruise, directed by Tony Scott. That's the movie that kind of ended like the 80s. I think that came out in 1980.
That ended the 80s. If you don't say this film came out in 89, I'm going to have so many questions for you.
It came out in 89. And
the film came out in 87, and the entire world went, well, that's... Nobody's doing anything...
Hop, skip and a jump over the 80s.
Nobody's doing anything better than Tom Cruise's Rolling Thunder. So let's fuck off 88, fuck off 89. It's 1990 now.
It's because... there's a video on YouTube, which we're on, by the way. We're on YouTube. There's a video on YouTube.
You don't need to tell them we're on YouTube. You need to tell these guys we're on
People
YouTube.
on Spotify, we're on YouTube. I whispered this into your ear as a wee secret. Keep it to yourself. There's a video on YouTube by Patrick H. Willems who talks about Rolling Thunder. I think Days of Thunder, not Rolling Thunder. Days of Thunder.
I don't know who that is either.
Directed by Tony Scott. Yeah, you thought Demolition Man was the fucking 1981.
Demolition Man feels like an 80s film.
But it's a 90s film.
But it feels like an 80s film.
You can tell it's a 90s film because Sylvester Stallone's more stretched.
Okay.
But never talked about Rocky, which came out in the 70s.
Rocky's a good film from the 70s.
We've not done this in a while, and I'm feeling... Lost our
You're doing a
touch.
really good job. I'm not, so...
I'm feeding you movies and you're giving me Demolition Man. That's what's happening.
Well, I'm excited to talk about that. Let's talk about Total Recall.
Talk about Total Recall. Well, I think of the fucking name of the director.
Total Recall's a very good film. Do we think... Here's a question. Do we think Total Recall's all in his head? Do you believe it happened? It's the big question, right?
In the Colin Farrell one, I think it was
why were you talking about the Colin Farrell
in
one?
his head.
No,
But
we're talking about the Schwarzenegger
But in the
version.
Schwarzenegger one, I think it was real.
I think the other way around. I think it's more coded that it's fake in the Schwarzenegger version. What? My mic's on.
Total Recall, 1990. A movie that came out in the 80s.
All right, I'll go for a safe bet.
Back to the Future came out in the fucking 80s.
Back to the Future's my safest bet. Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters came out in the 80s. We talk about that.
Well,
so many movies.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to pick films.
There are so many
films.
movies from the 80s.
I'm trying to pick films that we haven't spoke about. Feed me some.
I'll feed you some. Jesus.
Give me the top grossing films of the 80s. Christ.
Oh, God, that was funny. Right, movies in the 80s.
I'm looking forward to the 90s. What can I say? I'm primed and ready to go.
We got two ready and waiting. Coming to Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T.,
Great film.
Cinema Paradiso.
Medium film.
Once Upon a Time in America came out in the 80s. We talked about it in the 70s.
You fucked it.
Blade Runner.
Great film.
Do the Right Thing, Blue Velvet, Empire Strikes Back,
Great
The
film.
Shining, Full Metal
Great
Jacket,
film.
Brazil,
Great film.
Airplane, Das Boot,
Airplane,
The
great film.
Untouchables, Terminator, Die Hard,
Terminator, great film. Die Hard, great film. See this?
Scarface, Poltergeist, Terms of Endearment.
And what's interesting is going back to what we said about the 70s films kind of being the grandfathers and the ones that birthed so many genres. I feel like in the 80s we had films that nailed some of those genres.
I think
Like Die Hard is categorically the epitome of like 80s action films.
you could say that while the 70s informed cinema, the 80s informed genre.
Yes.
God,
Holy
sometimes,
fuck, that's a great... No, but you're 100% right. That's a really good take.
because like while like Halloween and Alien like formed the blueprint for horror, it was in the 80s that they defined the genre of horror.
Well, because you think about how many offshoots and the genres kind of got pinpointed in the 80s. So you're right, because Mike Myers and Halloween started the slasher genre, but then that slasher one went further and further and further, and it kind of created the modern day horrors that we have eventually got to, which is the uber
yeah, because
gore.
if you look at like the 80s with Roger Corman and filmmakers like that, where they were making schlocky B-movie slasher films where it's called The Night Stalker, and it's a guy in a balaclava and he just goes around stabbing women with big tits in bikinis.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Okay.
well, that'll cost us 15,000.
Mm-hmm.
Had a wee burp there. Punt it out the cinema. We'll make like 10 million back from it, and then we'll do another one, and we'll call it Night Stalker 2.
Yeah.
And it'll have no connection to the first one. It might not even be a slasher. It might just be a sci-fi epic, but we'll make it for 10 grand, and we'll hopefully make 10 million back. And it's just like, it was that kind of way, and genre filmmaking became so much more defined, and franchise genre filmmaking with like your Terminators, your Predators, your Die Hards, your action movies. It was
Franchise filming obviously hit because Ghostbusters, Back to the Future again, to the big ones, like
big defining movies.
Once a film hit that kind of like whatever X amount is, but once a film seemed to hit that amount of money, the studios were like, cool, well, again, do it again, another one.
The perfect example is Friday
For
the
any
13th.
of my Marvel rival playing listeners, again. You don't know what that is. You don't know what that is.
For everyone else who's not a fucking loser.
Again.
I'm sorry. Two franchises that define what you're talking about is Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, because it was, hey, these worked. Do it again.
And Leprechaun.
Do it again. Yeah, like what? There are 4 or 5 Leprechaun movies that came out.
7. There are 8 now, I think.
Gee,
The most recent one came out last year. Did you know that? Do you know there's a new Leprechaun?
is there?
We absolutely need to watch
Is
it.
Warwick Davis still doing it?
I think it might be Warwick Davis.
I love how he got like a Fellowship BAFTA award this year, but he's still punting out Leprechaun
I
movies.
think he's got a real soft spot for Leprechaun. I think he's fully like, I think you could ask Warwick Davis to do a Leprechaun film no matter what, and he'd be like, fuck yeah, I'm game.
Fuck yeah. The issue that I think comes from the 80s, though,
Leprechaun in the South.
that seems like it's going to be
It's a
culturally...
reboot. Announced in 2023. It's releasing this year.
Oh, so it's not out yet.
It's not out yet. Oh no, that's a fan-titled film, Leprechaun in the South. What the fuck? What is this film?
I feel like I'm going to use the sound effect wah, 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 a lot for you.
Wah, 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 wah. Keep talking.
I'm trying to, but you keep talking over me, but fucking Leprechaun.
It's important.
The issue that I feel like comes from the 80s, and it's something we never got back to Days of Thunder. God, we're so meandering in this, is that the franchise...
Did you know they were going to do a crossover film with Candyman? How crazy is that? Imagine that. Leprechaun versus Candyman.
The issue that came from the 80s, I'm just going to keep going.
I feel like Leprechaun would win that though, right?
I mean, I feel like we're going to do like a horror versus at some point.
What does Candyman do? Set bees on you. Leprechaun's got the power of the Irish behind him.
And that's been, unbeatable. They're so plucky, you know, the Irish.
Plucky.
Oh, you can only imagine what kind of tactics they would bring to that fight.
Well, I tell you what they do. They definitely beat a fucking man who can let bees loose.
Candyman's using like bee magic, and they're using guerrilla tactics.
Imagine being called Candyman as well. Like, so you'd get, what was he? He got burned to death and then honey poured on him, and then bees let loose inside his chest cavity or something. And then he comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm the Candyman now. My thing's honey for some reason.
Yeah, it's...
And also but what I find so funny about that is rather than leaning into it and being like, cool, well, he stabs people to death with 1,000 bees. He's like, why is he Candyman? He's like honey related. He's going to drip boiling honey on it and bees are going to eat me. Like, no, he has a hook for a hand and he'll stab you.
Yeah, it feels like
okay.
it feels like a real amalgamation of just like what different things can we do to make this guy like scary?
Right, we'll make him supernatural. Okay, I love it. So he's come back from the dead. Brilliant. And he got burned by honey and bees. So he's going to be like a bee-themed one. No, he's got a hook for a hand and he stabs you. You've kind of lost me right in the end there. Right at the end there, I don't understand.
What's his
why
motivation?
Is he supernatural? Yeah, why is he supernatural? Then why don't we just make him a guy with a hook for a hand? Done that. People love Jason. People love Freddy.
Why can't I find Candyman?
Anyway, I think I'm lying about this Leprechaun film. Well, no, it is on the it's on the cards. It's actually Dinklage who's going to be doing Leprechaun.
Do you know what's like? I get into such good runs of like here's a great like little bit.
Your bit about the 80s defining genre was brilliant.
Oh, and then you just fucking it was great. Great, wasn't it? Tell me down in the comments how great it was. I can say that now because there are comments down there.
There's comments on Spotify now. You could be saying it. Actually, they've been there for a while. You could have been saying this the whole time.
Fuck. Well, tell me something in the comments about how great my genre bit was.
80s. So, Die Hard.
Yeah, genre-defining movies in the 80s.
A list.
I
could have kept track.
Again, I did so much for you, and you gave me nothing in return. I hate your hat, by the way. Genre-defining movies from the 80s, and also childhood-defining movies for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For both
a
you
lot
and
of children in the 80s.
And lots of children were born in the 80s.
Loads.
Look it up. Fun fact. Titanic sank in 1912. There's another fact for you.
And Titanic came out in 1990.
No, it didn't.
The 1990s.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, we're now going to go into because Gary's been trying to get there for fucking
by
a long
accident.
time.
By accident. I genuinely thought some of those films were...
Do you know what's funny is like all the movies I wanted to talk about in the 90s, do you know what two weren't on my list? Demolition Man and Total Recall.
And Leprechaun?
And Leprechaun. And I think Candyman. Did Candyman not come out in the 90s as well? So here we are. We're in your 90s. The floor is yours. Go.
I don't know what to say. I want to know. I'm enjoying listening to what you're saying. I'm just here adding bits.
We're back, everyone. We're shitter than ever.
The 80s defined the genre, and then in the 90s, filmmakers went, "Wow! So how do we further capitalize?" So for all of the fresh, brand new ideas that came out in the 80s, because let's be honest, I think that's also another reason why the 80s feels so unbelievably nostalgic. Because for the majority of people, and even looking at it on paper, it's just fresh. And I do feel like that kept going in the 90s because of fair enough. You weren't thinking about it, but like Total Recall, Demolition Man. I know some of these were based off books and stuff, but it was still brand new, fresh ideas using big character actor names. And I think there's a lot of big names that kind of transferred from the 80s well into the 90s, but it was still fresh. And it's not until the 2000s
when it starts to
we start hitting the like, wait, what was good 20 years ago? Let's bring it back.
It's a great point of like, definitely 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was a lot of take something from a book or take an old TV show from like the 50s or the 40s that maybe no one's heard of and make it into something more. And once you find what that thing is, make as many as you possibly can.
Yeah, really, really milk it.
Unless you're someone like a Robert Zemeckis where you made 3 of them, which is the Back to the Future movies, and then went, none of you will ever touch this ever again.
Yeah.
Fuck all of you.
He's been pretty he made that TV show.
He made a TV show?
That's where Bill Nye the Science Guy came from.
Well, Back to the Future.
Do you not know this?
No, I have no idea about this.
Oh my god, so Back to the Future had an animated TV show.
Okay.
Where set after Back to the Future 3, Doc Brown and Marty McFly, because they had to stay together, Einstein's in it, and I think I feel like the wife and one of the kids is gone, but one of the kids is like a new character to the whole thing, but it's Doc and Marty. And they're just going through history on adventures on the time train. And to like sell this and to tie it in, and because it was the 90s, at the advert break, before and after each advert break, Bill Nye, so it started off with Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown himself, would come in and be like, "Kids, we're going to be doing an experiment, so grab your baking powder and your vinegar and we're going to make an explosion." And then
we're going to get all the gunk out of your sink.
Yeah, and then after the advert break, they do the, it'd be like 1.21 gigawatts, it's exploded all over my kitchen, goofy wacky. they didn't have the budget to keep pulling Christopher Lloyd back in for these.
Because he was there.
No, they didn't have the budget to keep pulling Christopher Lloyd in, so they introduced Bill Nye the Science Guy, who was then took over from Christopher Lloyd, and he became the experiment fella. And for whatever reason, Bill Nye the Science Guy stuck around and became like a staple of American culture. But Bill Nye the Science Guy came from the Back to the Future TV show.
I did not know that.
How crazy is that, though?
That's a fun little fact. Look
Right?
at that. See? We can deliver things.
So there we go.
Yeah, but then with the 90s, the other thing that came from the 90s is...
The Ghostbusters animated show. And they didn't have the license for any of the characters, which is why they don't look like the characters from the films.
Is young filmmakers that... young filmmakers... Hold on, I'm just going over here for a second. I'm still talking, though. Is young filmmakers, like your M. Night Shyamalans, your Robert Rodriguez's, your Quentin Tarantino's, like a lot of people, like Paul Thomas Anderson's, a lot of people who maybe came from film school, some of them didn't, and they brought in kind of a new wave. A lot of them were inspired by like French new wave cinema and everything from like the 80s, and then they brought that to America and started their version of that, and that's where you get your Reservoir Dogs, your Pulp Fictions, your Sixth Senses, Boogie Nights, like all these kind of new voices in cinema came up in the 90s, and your old guard at this point, your Spielbergs, your Lucases, your Kubricks and all that, they were, well, I guess Kubrick was in the kind of the sunset of his career, but obviously Scorsese, Spielberg, Lucas were still doing their thing, but they entered into different eras. Spielberg entered into Schindler's List era. George Lucas entered into his prequel era, and Martin Scorsese just did more Martin Scorsese because that's kind of just what he does. So the 90s is an interesting clash, whereas the 70s felt like everyone working to the same kind of like end goal. The 80s is the studios and these franchises all working to the end goal. The 90s feels more like the new and the old starting to like pass the baton in a way.
Who name some of the big names from the 90s? Because I feel like this is the thing, right? It's very easy to name the big names: Zemeckis, Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, both Andersons, Tarantino. But like, who else? Who else kind of rose up? I feel like the 90s.
Wachowskis would have rose up in that time.
Wachowskis.
Your Shyamalan, Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, Tarantino are like a double bill in my mind. But that's what I mean. It's interesting that the big names of cinema history started before that, and then the 90s is a bit of a lull, and then recent years we've kind of had another uptick with your Gertwig, your Ari Asters, your...
I wouldn't say the 90s was a lull, because it's still like with your Paul Thomas Anderson, it's different movies.
Wachowski's, Tarantino, I'd say Shyamalan was noise. Depends on the Sixth Sense came out.
Sixth Sense was 90s.
When? 99?
Let me get the old phone up. Let me do the wee research for you.
I swear if you say 2001, I'm going to fucking lose my shit.
Helps it if I could spell 1999.
Yeah, we did it.
Or we could have talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger's The Sixth Day, but that comes out in the 2000s, so we'll get there, don't worry.
Well, so we've done it for the other ones. Give me a quick list of the biggest 90s. Is that a little bug? It's been pissing me off.
Yeah, there's a little bug.
Give me a little bug.
Come here, you little fucking bug. So the 1990s Face ID.
1990s.
Toy
Story.
So yeah, we're looking at Pulp Fiction, Schindler's List, Malcolm X, Magnolia, Life is Beautiful, Goodfellas, Rushmore. I guess Wes Anderson really...
Wes Anderson
one. We've got Silence of the Lambs, which I think is just a fucking masterpiece of a movie. Oh, I never talked about Network when we were in the 70s. I wanted to talk about Network. You got the Fargo with...
Coen Brothers.
Coen Brothers
Very
came
90s.
up in that time. Shawshank Redemption, that's where... you're sniffing.
It won't pick up. You saying you're sniffing...
It picks up every time.
Draws more attention to it.
Shawshank Redemption, that's where Frank Darabont really came into his own. He's got that in The Green Mile and movies like that. Who else? Ang Lee. If you want to talk about Ang Lee. I mean, the other thing we need to talk about when it comes to the 90s is Pixar, Disney Animation. Toy Story came out that time. Disney movies like Hercules and...
I meant to say in the 80s, we had the Renaissance during the 80s and 90s.
Kevin Smith also for the 90s.
Early 90s, for sure, where
Also, last one I'm going to say is your man who did like Edward Scissorhands and everything.
Burton.
Tim Burton, like he was 90s as
Big
well.
90s, yeah. But yeah, so Disney came back
late 80s, but then
Tim Burton came back. Not Tim Burton. Disney came back with a force in the 90s. I'm not sure what. I actually don't know what triggered it. But I just think they had a run of, after having a lull and really struggling to pull together some animation and studios and find the right team. Disney then came back around with like, just pretty much, I think they had a good run of like banger after banger. I think it was around The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast.
I mean, I'll tell you what definitely helped them out.
Tarzan.
Technology.
And technology.
Because the technology changed with like ILM and visual effects and CGI, is it meant that Disney didn't have to solely rely on hand-drawn animation. They could do a mix and a balance. That's where you get movies like Treasure Planet and stuff. I think, or Treasure Planet early 2000s. Oh, I can't wait to talk about Treasure Planet. But it's like, with like CGI and everything and visual effects.
Well, Beauty and the Beast won an Academy Award, right?
And that was able to do things because of computer animation.
But it won it for that scene. It won it for the
ballroom scene.
Which is a blend of animation and computer generation.
So that's going to have helped them massively, because then they can cut costs, they can skimp around things, they don't have to draw over and rotoscope over old things.
Well, they don't have to, and they also started leaning into the kind of like, right, well, let's start leaning into celebrity, because the 80s and 90s Disney films is when they started drawing like real voice, maybe not real voice talent in, but they started pulling in big names. Yeah, like each Disney film had a name attached.
Like Robin Williams in Aladdin
being like, a big one.
Yeah, like the one everyone thinks about.
But Gibson in Pocahontas, you had loads. I'm trying to think who else now. But they were just trying to pump them out, which is cool.
And then the other most important thing that happens is Pixar.
And then Pixar, the acquisition of Pixar.
Because Pixar, with Toy Story and everything they did, they've redefined animated movies.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
which we didn't see again really until DreamWorks' Shrek, which was only made to spite Pixar.
Yeah,
which we'll get to. But yeah, like and they held the gauntlet for 10 years. Pixar were just like, this is our thing.
They were untouchable.
No one's doing anything like it. Try, but fuck you.
I mean, the interesting thing is that with Pixar is similar to how the 80s were. They started off as something new, fresh, exciting. They were untouchable. Everything just turned to fucking gold. But then they just did it too much, and it became more of the same thing. It became homogenized. It became homogenized to the point where we got to where we are now with Pixar, where now they're the ones trying to play catch up with everyone else. Their movies feel a bit stale and hollow now. Whereas you look at things like Spider-Verse or was it the second Puss in Boots movie, the
Last Wish?
Like, you look at stuff like that where it's like, it feels experimental and exciting, and it's different animation styles, and they're playing around with it. And even Disney's, I think, outperforming Pixar at this point with their animated movies.
I mean, we're talking about films that are coming out now, but like, what's Pixar's latest? Elemental.
I mean,
Soul was nice.
That one.
Elemental was weird.
The one with the fish boy makes a friend.
Luca.
Was that Pixar or was that Disney?
That was Pixar, I'm sure. Fucking great.
Oh, great. Luca was...
Can't argue that.
So underrated.
Right, cool. I thought you were about to say you weren't happy with that one. I was like, no, hold on.
That's probably the best Pixar movie I've watched in a long time.
Yeah, Luca's fantastic. Luca is
The other thing that...
But Soul was nice.
The other issue that Pixar had is, because they got bought over by Disney, it became make number 2 of that movie, make number 3 of that movie. And now we've got 4, soon to be 5 Toy Story movies.
Which is mind-blowing.
Which they probably should have stopped after the first one, because they just got worse as they went on.
No. Yeah. 3 was fine. 3 was a good number for Toy Story. It also makes sense. Don't let me get me started.
Oh, Moana was great.
It made sense to them. That's also not Pixar.
I know, I'm talking about Disney movies.
It made sense for Toy Story to have 3 films because you grew up while the films came out. So a story about a kid who plays with toys, and then fair enough, the second one, it's like they technically no real... Andy's barely a character in the second one. But then the third one is like, there was a 15-year gap, 10-year gap, whatever it was, and it was like, cool. All the children who grew up and loved Toy Story are now at the age where they're leaving home, and here's a film about saying goodbye. Touching.
I suppose it's all right. But yeah,
Toy Story 3, fuck you. Toy Story 3. Of the 3 of them, Toy Story 1 is the classic. Toy Story 3, I would argue, is the emotionally superior movie. Toy Story 2 is good, and it's a good, fun film, but it's also like the most middling of You know what I mean? Like, it's unfortunately it's wedged in between greatness and greatness, and it never quite hits.
The thing with Toy Story 2 is they didn't feel like they had an idea for a movie, and they just kind of went, "Oh, I guess this will do."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh, this is it." Oh, okay.
It's funny. It is funny to rewatch Toy Story 2 because Toy Story 1, you're like, toys can talk. Fuck, whoa. Toy Story 2, toys can talk. Yeah, we know. You showed us that. Well, I guess what if one of them's a collector's item? Yeah. Okay, yeah, play that one out.
Let's go.
Toy Story 3. What if the guy that you've grown up with has to give you away? Whoa, I'm not ready for this. What if the toys accept their death? Please, Disney, please, I'm going to die. No.
I still love that video where
Pixar,
the person edited it for their family, and like they made it look like the film ended as they're about to go into the fucking furnace, and they're like, "What? No,
it's the holding hand, isn't it? It's the
holding hand there."
Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, we've drifted away from the 90s. We should we'll cap off the 90s.
Naughties, baby.
Yeah, the 90s was
Total Recall,
a transitional time.
Do you really think in Total Recall, the 90s version with Schwarzenegger, it's all real?
No, I don't think it's all real, even though I did earlier say that. And the reason I don't think it's all real is because some of the things that happen to him are so farcical and so, like when he's in space and everything, the head's like getting bigger. It's like it. That's a great impression. It jumps the gun in a way where it makes me think that this is a simulation inside of his head. It's
also, I think that for me the biggest giveaway is always it's like when they show him the simulation they're putting him in, which is Blue Skies in Mars, and then they show him the love interest. The love interest is the leader of the rebels that appears later on in the film. And of all the facts, that's the one where I'm like, well, why would they show him that? If he was a sleeper agent and that company knows he's a sleeper agent.
It's kind of like the thing where, like, if you're thinking about something before you go to sleep and then it ends up in your dreams. It's like that.
But it's not. It's more than that because they tell him,
and they kind of
we're going to put this memory in your brain. This is the memory. All right, cool. When you're in there, it might feel real. And then you get that little sweaty man who turns up and he's like, "You're right. Your brain's dying. They've sent me in to try and pull you out. You can either believe in the myth and you will eventually expire, or you can accept what I'm saying and we'll pull you out." And he shoots him in the head. And it's like, all right, well, I guess we'll just play this out then. If you smashed cut out into the surgical room, they'd be like, "Oh, he killed him." Well,
fuck
this. Like, get the black bag ready because
roll credits.
This guy's about to his brain is about to explode.
But I think the good thing also is they keep it for you to guess. It's far.
I feel like they don't know. I feel like if you actually watch Total Recall, the 90s one at least, I can't remember the Colin Farrell one well enough.
No one can.
But I feel like if you actually do rewatch Total Recall now, the film is telling you time and time again. But like I'm with you. You watch it and it's fun to just watch Arnold Schwarzenegger run around. But the key underline is like, nah, it's all bollocks. The whole thing's bollocks. The simulation is called Blue Sky on Mars, and then at the end of it, he saves Mars and he creates an atmosphere of Mars. It's like, that's, you know what I mean? Yeah. Everything he picks, everything he chooses at the beginning, when he's going through the girls and he's like, this one, guess who the rebel leader that he falls in love with is? The girl he picked at the beginning.
I guess, yeah, when you look back at it with critical eyes, you can see all the little,
it's so obvious.
But when you initially watch it, the movie does present it in a way of like,
it's funny, isn't it? I feel like the movie doesn't even I think the first time you watch Total Recall, it fully gives you it as Arnold Schwarzenegger's a spy. 100%. What? 100%. When that little guy turns up, it's all filmed in a way to make it be like, that's the company trying to pull the wool over his eyes. 1,000,000%. It's only upon rewatches.
I think is the most interesting aspect, though, is we're now into our third decade, and the movie you've talked the most about is Total Recall. We've travelled through the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, and the movie you want to talk about the most is Total Recall. Did you watch it recently?
No, I might watch it when I get home, though. Good film, isn't it?
The 2000s. I feel with
Fantasia 2000.
What was that?
It was the sequel to Fantasia.
There was a sequel to Fantasia?
Yeah, it's called Fantasia 2000. It came out in the year 2000.
That helps that it was called 2000. Some of the movies that came out in the 2000s.
Fantasia 2000.
Fantasia 2000.
Is that on your list?
Weirdly, it's number one on the list. Then we've got Gladiator, Dark Knight, Slumdog Millionaire, The Departed, The Lord of the Rings trilogy, Pan's Labyrinth, City of fucking God, what a great movie. Finding Nemo, No Country for Old Men, V for Vendetta, There Will Be Blood, Donnie Darko, Sin City, 300.
Fuck, man. Like
Munich, Up, Memento.
quick sample you've given me, which and that's the list. What is the title of that list?
It's the 100 best movies.
100 best movies.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say from that very quick.
I'd skip past them.
I know, but that was this very quick, 20 films that you just rattled
Yeah,
off.
more or less.
Edgy as fuck. The Naughties, for some reason, L Corporation was like, hey, you know what we really want to like lean into? You know what the theme of the year is?
Edgy and gritty.
Edginess, grittiness.
I mean,
take those beloved characters. You know, the ones that wear pants on the outside and they're kind of goofy. Fucking make them real dark.
the thing about the 2000s is the 2000s felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be, because with the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was a clear idea through them all of like, with the 90s, it's the new and the old, and they're kind of rubbing against each other. We've got this new voice in cinema. We've got the old voices in cinema trying new things. With the 2000s, it feels a lot like, let's just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And what stuck was in 2008 when Jon Favreau released a movie called Iron Man, and then everyone went, fuck it, we figured out what we wanted to do. Why didn't we do this sooner? Because we've got a lot of superhero movies. You've got Daredevil, you've got Blade, you've got Spider-Man, you've got X-Men. They're trying all these different ones. None of them are interconnected. Some of them are good. Some of them are fucking god-awful. And then in 2008...
It is really upsetting that from like this point onwards, it's like, what films are we going to talk about in the 10s? Well, a fucking mountain of MCU pish.
I mean, when I look at the 2000s, I see a lot of movies that, for me...
There's a lot of my formative films in there.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko.
Donnie the Dork. Donnie Darko. Hey, what? Hey, if you can see the future, watch this. Poof. That's what I would have done.
Got him.
That's what I would have done to bully him.
Yeah, there's a lot of forms of films for the both of us in there, especially Pixar-wise. That's when they really got into their swing. With
I feel like it's just the noughties. 28 Days Later, was that not 2000s? Like,
yeah, that'd be the early 2000s.
There's a million films I could talk about that came out in the 2000s.
Danny Boyle's filmography. Christopher Nolan came. Look, this is where Christopher Nolan
Brosnan's Bond.
Yeah, that was Brosnan's Bond at the time, wasn't it? And then
90s and noise, but yeah, Brosnan's Bond.
Like with the Coen Brothers movies, and they're like No Country for Old Men.
So many Coen Brothers films.
Paul Thomas Anderson really came into his own with like There Will Be Blood and Punch Drunk Love and stuff like that. It's like so many forms of films, but it's like a charcuterie board of options.
Cheese board. A smorgasbord. A
smorgasbord of like, there's no clear, like, this is what way the industry feels like it's going until 2008. When everything, because you got Dark Knight and Iron Man, and then the whole industry shifted that year to be like,
superheroes.
This is what we're doing. And that's when cinema died. No, I'm joking. It's not when cinema died. It's when it became perhaps its most profitable ever. We also had Avatar in 2009. Like,
2000s is crazy.
Titanic as well.
Titanic.
James Cameron got $2 billion movies in the 2010s. In the 2000s.
That's beyond insane.
Why
is he still making films?
Why is he still making Avatar films?
Why is he still... I mean, if I had $2 billion films tagged to my name, presumably at any point when I need something, I can just be like, hello, studio.
The answer is one word.
What?
Ego.
Yeah.
His ego is unfathomable.
It genuinely is why I know, just as a human being, I will never be rich, because actually that's bullshit. I might be rich one day, and if it ever happens,
it won't be because of this podcast.
Yowdy. Yeah, it definitely won't. But if it happens, fucking yowdy. No, what I was going to say there is, if I ever hit the point where I'm like, I've made $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, I get lucky and something happens, I will rest on my laurels for the rest of my days. I have no drive. I'm not like your Cameron, who's like, well, I made $1 billion movie.
I have no drive.
Next year,
I just want to soundbite that.
Within the next 5 years.
Just look at the camera. I have no drive.
In the next 5 years, I'll make another $1 billion movie. I'm James Cameron, and I love the craft. If that was me, and it's because anytime I do a job, anytime, no matter how much I love the job, I eventually reach a point where I'm like, but it's just a job. I'd rather be doing anything else. And I just can't imagine, even with my $1 billion background, being like, you want me to go and do another film? Yeah. How many hours a day? Well, it'll be like, 10-hour days. You'll be out in the desert filming and like, do you know I still got like $400 million in my bank account? Well, yeah, we know. Like, well,
See, I think
I'm okay. You can put my name on it if you want, if it helps sell tickets, but I don't want to be there.
just a picture of your face thumbsing up, which, to be fair, is what James Cameron has done for the whole Terminator franchise.
Just phoned it
They're
in.
just like, James, can you say this one's good? This one's the best yet. Comes out, it's the worst one yet, and he goes, I don't know, I didn't say that.
Can we just talk about this just as a very quick aside? It does my utter nutting. It does, and books are the same. Books are also in this, but like back of the book cover, fucking Variety magazine says the best film I've seen all year, and it's like you can't say that about 20 films. I can pick 20 films you've put that on the back of the cover. It's like, well, up until that point, it was the best film I'd seen. Fuck off.
I hate it so much.
And then you get celebrities, or it's like Seth Rogen says the funniest comedy of all time, and it's like, I really wish it was. Hello, here's Seth Rogen's number. You are allowed to fact check him. Hi, Seth Rogen. I've just watched You, Me, and Dupree. On the back of the box, you've written that it was the funniest comedy of all time. You have to explain to me now on the phone why you said that. Well, no. I don't care that you're at dinner. I don't care the Oscars are on. You fucking said it. You made your bed. Now you must lay in it. Tell me.
I have this beautiful image in my head, and it's like the film critic for Variety, and he's just watched like the new movie of the movie of 2025, and he's like, for the fourth time, writes the pull quote because he knows it's going to be in the trailer. He's just like, this will be the best superhero movie all year. And it's like, well, you said that about the last three. And so you go to a restaurant, he's sitting in a restaurant, having some food, you walk up, flip the chair around, sit down, and he goes, look at me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes.
And slam down 3 different bits of paper.
Which-
1, 2, 3.
Which one is it? Which one is it?
I can't have an opinion. I don't know which one's the best film until you tell me.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
They can't all be.
He just said,
Sorry, I don't know you. I'll blow this place sky high. Iron Man, The Dark Knight, or Daredevil?
which one is it? He's just like, oh, I don't know, Daredevil. Lies. You're lying to me.
Mystery explosion in downtown Manhattan. Nobody knows what happened.
Sad to report, Variety has lost another film critic to the best movie of the year craze. When will the madness end?
A news report like, please stop saying every film is the best film of the year. These explosions must stop.
We've got a hold of the terrorist manifesto. It's just him writing over and over again, best movie of the year, best movie of the year, best movie of the year. And then sporadic pictures of superheroes. He was like, this isn't my Iron Man.
Yeah. Anyway, fucks me off. Like, you shouldn't get away with it.
I know, I hate it. When you watch, you see the trailer and it's just like, The Metro, 5 stars, greatest video game movie ever made.
You shouldn't be allowed to pay for a good score in a review. It ruins. What's the fucking point at that point? What's the point in anything?
I mean, I feel like this is
I need to tell you about something. When we get to the 10s, I guess, I need to tell you about something that almost killed me.
Okay, is this for them or just for me?
I mean, it could be for all of us.
Okay.
But it's another.
I feel like your point about the review, that's a bigger question for another day that we'll have to tackle at another point. Let's stick to our decades. Put that one in the book. We'll come back to it. Don't know why I did that.
Speaking of 2010.
2010s. Let me give you a quick rundown of the 2010s, which I think perhaps might be the weakest.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, there's a bunch of superhero films, right?
I don't want to say that's why I think it might be the weakest, but I think that's why it might be the weakest. Is because the 2010s became... I don't want to say the sentence, this is where cinema died. Because this is
You already said that.
This is... I've said that before. I closed... Vamp for a second. I closed on the page that I needed. Talk me through some of your favourite 2010 movies.
Interestingly enough, my memory is funny on this one, because obviously the 2010s were only 5 years ago. So my memory of the 2010s is actually quite positive, realistically, because I've let all of the middling guff float down to the bottom of the memory banks. And what's stuck out for me, granted, is more recent films, but it's kind of the big movies from the latter part of the 2010s.
Just as a quick aside, so I've pressed on top 100 movies of the 2010s. Mm-hmm. Number 6 on the list is Green Book.
Well, it won an Oscar, didn't it? Fucking crazily. Right, give me one. 1 to 10. Read them out.
Spotlight, Moonlight, Inception, Mission Impossible, Fallout, Birdman, Green Book, Blade Runner
God, did somebody
2049,
just watch the fucking Oscars?
The Shape of Water, 12 Years a Slave, Get Out, Mad Max, Toy Story 3, the Planet of the Apes movies, Arrival, La La Land, Whiplash, Boyhood, The
You know what I mean?
Artist.
So like all of these
Three
ones that you were
Billboards.
naming, and I'm like, yeah, fuck, these were all bangers. Like,
Those are a lot of bangers, but
the problem I think the 2010s had, personally. Sorry, I know you're about to say something, but personally, I think the problem we had with the 2010s is that everything was a banger. We were hitting, which we are now fully into, the social media trend of like, your film is one of two things, and it can only be one of two things. It is either the best thing that has ever been ever committed to screen, or it's terrible and it'll be watched because it's bad. And anything in the middle doesn't exist effectively. Is anything in the middle, you will then talk about a Marvel film instead. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
If you went to the cinema and you seen something which you come out and you go, I'd like to talk about this, it was maybe a 6 out of 10. It's like, cool. Or we could talk about the latest Marvel film. It's like, well, let's talk about that. Unless it's so awfully bad that it's like, holy fuck, I need to rage. Or I seen a film and it was the most incredible piece of cinema, and because of that, all the reviews, that's it.
Yeah.
You lose the middle.
I think when I said I think the 2010s might be the weakest, and I looked at that list, I think I'm wrong. And I do think I'm wrong, actually. I do think the 2010s are better than I remember them being. But what you said is more accurate, which is everything was either, like, if you're looking at Three Billboards or you're looking at anything Denis Villeneuve, you're looking at Damien Chazelle, like all these movies that these directors are making. These are like 8, 9, 10 out of 10 movies.
Yeah.
Or you've just got an unimaginable tsunami of forgetful dreck, just crap, just rubbish and nothing.
Total crap.
And in between all of that was, did you see Iron Man 3? Oh, the new Avengers movie's coming out soon.
Yep.
Oh, they're doing Ant-Man.
All
They're
punctuated
doing
by
Ant-Man 2.
Marvel.
Did you see the Aquaman? It was like the middle ground was consumed by superheroes.
Yeah.
And then there was everything else on either side. And everything on the top scale, some of the best movies I will have ever seen. Blade Runner, anything by Denis Villeneuve, some of the best movies I've ever seen.
2049,
Christopher
Arrival,
Nolan was fucking Interstellar. He was like
Interstellar.
fucking Dunkirk, like,
you know what I mean?
home
Big
runs,
names.
big movies.
Smashing it.
But there's also...
But then on the same breath, you had fucking Valerian Thousand City Planet Monkeys, whatever the fuck that was called.
You had your Mortal Engines, a movie we always talk about.
All of this shit, which is... it became... yeah, I guess because it was up against it all, but it's like, if it wasn't 10 out of 10 perfect, like, and it's funny because now that I've softened years after seeing it, not Mortal Engines, that film could suck ass, but the Valerian Thousand Planets
Luc Besson movie.
Luc Besson, realistically, if I watch that now that I'm out of the Marvel grinder, and I'm trying to get back into like, I can watch other things, if I watch that film now, I'd probably go, it's fine. It would probably fit that. You know what I always say to you? Like, I quite like films that are in the middle ground, like those 90s classics, which they're not actually fantastic, but they're perfectly serviceable. That film is probably perfectly serviceable. Other than the weird
Sunday watches.
Yeah. There's so many of them in the 2010s that I think will just be forgotten and swept away. In 10, 15 years, they'll have a resurgence because a bunch of children will have disposable income and they'll be like, what was that film I watched with my dad? And they'll go and dig it out, and they'll and TikTok or whatever it is in the future, Blim Blam or whatever, will be the fucking...
You heard it here first, everyone. Blim Blam.
Blim Blam, the social media engine of the future.
We should start Blim Blam.
But my point, like, you know, they'll have these resurgences because kids will be going like, guys, I've just watched the most important film. You know, I loved it growing up, and you won't remember it. Memory unlocked on Blim Blam of Valeria's Thousand Planets film.
Exactly what's happening right now with the Star Wars prequels and with the...
This is fucking me off, by the way.
Andrew Garfield Spider-Man
exactly
movie. Like, all these movies when they came out, like, even like the first Pirates Caribbean was good. The ones after that, I think it's diminishing returns. But with all these movies, when they came out, everyone's like, not that good, or didn't enjoy it, or that was crap. And now there's this... the nostalgia is definitely creeping in, and as well as that, there's this rose-tinted glasses look back, which, to be fair, we might have for the 80s, which we have talked about in all these movies. But it's weird that everyone's now like, oh, when Hayden Christensen came back in the Obi-Wan show, I was like, my heartstrings. I was like, and I've said this many times before, you all slated the shit out of this stuff.
We all hated those films.
And now we're all acting like they're Like it's happening with The Matrix 2 and
Put them on a
3,
pedestal.
where everyone's like, "Oh, Reloaded was so misunderstood. Look at the things look at the ideas that are going." It's like, no, it was shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Do you know what fucks me off? Something came up on Reddit the other day. Wait, hold on. I need to find this actually before I commit. But this is it's something that genuinely pisses me off, and the internet is becoming progressively worse and worse and worse for it. So
Cesspool.
what it is
Follow us on that cesspool.
people finding and attempting to find meaning in every piece, in every frame of every film, of every movie, and adding meaning to everything, right? And it's fucking me off. So this, like Matrix Revolutions, Matrix Reloaded, it's like, oh, they were actually really good, guys. I broke it down in my latest video, and you can watch what I truly believe Lawrence Fishburne is saying, because at this scene he's got his hand behind his backs and you can see that he's fiddling with something, and I think he's fiddling with a console which then lets them into the Matrix, and he's like, you're like, no, you're like, fuck off. He just had his hand behind his back because he was walking and he was doing it absent-mindedly.
It was a choice the actor made in the moment.
It's
and
not
no
a
one
thing.
thought anything more about it.
So I'm not going to be able to, I guarantee I'm not going to be able to find this. It was, but to paint the picture, it was on the Harry Potter subreddit, which
it was.
I don't follow, but because I think I've clicked on it previously.
I don't believe you.
No, you know Reddit does this new with the adverts.
believe him?
Fuck you.
Well, it does in the comments down below if
It
you
does
believe
this
him.
new thing where it says, because you've recently visited,
Yeah.
and it was a post. So at the end of which one's the one your favorite one? Quaron's Harry Potter.
Prisoner of
Azkaban. You know the final
What were
scene.
you going to say? Quaron's.
Quaron's dead. I said Quaron's favorite, but I meant to say your favorite Quaron's directed movie.
Oh, are you talking about the director, Alfonso Cuarón?
Yes.
I thought you were like Harry Potter and the Quarons.
No, the final scene of that, which is that really odd choice, but
with
the freeze frame on him on the broom, right?
Yeah, terrible.
It's a really fucking weird choice, but fair play, he committed to it. And the final scene of Harry Potter 3 is him on a firebolt broom going really fast, and it's a freeze frame, and he's all motion blurred to fuck. It's crazy, but it's funny, right? Whatever, it's just a gag, and it's like the all he's trying to show is that the broom's fast. That's it. Somebody put up, I can't find it, but somebody put up a Reddit post the other day. It was like, do you think he chose this and freeze framed it and put the motion blur on to highlight the Dementors sucking out his soul earlier in the film? And thankfully, the entire comment section was like, no, you fucking maniac. It's just a weird choice, and it's showing you the broom's going fast. But the fact that I could be wrong, and may God strike me down if I am, but the fact that some 14-year-old kid who just is chronically online.
You think it's 14 and not a 31-year-old?
No, I truly do. I think it's a 14-year-old kid who's just chronically online and is trying to find meaning in a film that's been so utterly picked apart by the Harry Potter culture vultures, is like, the freeze frame at the end, I guess, looks a little bit like a Dementor getting his soul sucked out. I'll do a Reddit post, and I might get my upvotes, might get my upvotes, and be Reddit famous for at least half a day.
And soon I'll be famous on Bling Blang.
And then Blim Blam will come around. But it's just like, geez, it's just upsetting me that, like, that term, I quite like it, the vulture cultures, culture vultures of just, we're just ripping everything to shreds and deciding everything has meaning. And it's like, no, not everything needs to have meaning.
I watch a lot of movie stuff on YouTube because I like to always like, oh, what's the weird behind the scenes story about the making of this random movie and blah, blah, blah. But there is a lot of examples of that, of what it'll be like, why Ben Affleck's Daredevil was misunderstood. And then it'll be like a 12-minute video, and he goes into like, see what the director's intention actually was when, if you read this comment he made in articles, that's the one to do this. This is what more the movie was going to be and what it was saying. And I'm like, sure, that's interesting. Okay, that's the director's intention, but that's not what the movie is.
Yeah.
So
attaching so much merit to things that are unmeritable,
and I
effectively.
think now the biggest kind of example of that is the superhero genre and the Marvel machine.
Well, it's Marvel, it's Star Wars. I know we talked about this 1,000 times, so let's not. But like Marvel and Star Wars and Disney are playing into it. And as much as I talk about Disney, it's because Disney are fundamentally at this point they are the conglomerate, and they are just soaking everything up.
Yeah, they got Fox in the 2010s.
Fox, but now that Disney are in the point where they're like, we own all this shit. We are gonna, and this actually comes into that thing I wanted to speak to you about it earlier. quite nicely. Nice little segue. They're like, we are going to attach so much shit, and we know that the people that are actually spending the most money with us, because they'll have all this metrics, they'll have all the Disney Plus statistics. They know the people that are spending the most money for them are the people that are chronically online looking for meaning in absolutely everything. So instead of it just being, I watched The Matrix, and when I said Lawrence Fishburne's hand was behind his back, and I believe XYZ, Disney are now purposely doing all this shit. And they're doing it for an audience that is probably making them a lot of money, but is also the worst fucking audience to be doing it for. They did it with Star Wars Episode 9. And it's that Tumblr, which brings me to the point. Me and Dave watched Zombies 3 the other day.
Okay.
I think I messaged you saying I need to speak to you about this, and I never actually got into it.
I was going to watch it and I never did.
Oh, no, please don't.
Oh, okay.
It will kill you. It almost killed me.
Or you on gummies at the point?
Oh yeah, we were tripping. But we were looking for a film, and we wanted something that was funny, and we'd watched the Goofy movie, the first one. Brilliant pick.
Great.
So fucking good.
So good.
And then afterwards, we were like in a little like lull before the next rise hit, and I was like, well, what would we put on? We were looking around, and then I said we should watch Descendants for a gag, which is
Is that the George Clooney?
No. Oh, okay. It's the Disney original. All the kids of the classic villains go to high school together, and it's kind of the same vein as High School Musical. It's like totally fucking not cheap, but Disney cheap for Disney Channel.
Feels like a topic we would do.
Yeah, right. It's crazy.
Movie characters going to
anyway.
High school.
It's legit. There's a whole series and there's fucking loads of them. We clicked on it to maybe go for it, and I was just like, it'll just be dumb. It'll be something we could put on. We can have a laugh to. Then underneath it was like, if you like this, you may also like Zombies 3. And Dave was like, why don't we just put on Zombies 3? And I was like, well, we haven't watched Zombies 1 and 2. And he was like, yeah. So we put on Zombies 3.
Who needs 1 and 2?
Who needs 1 and 2? It's fucking wild. At the beginning, there are zombies, there are werewolves, there are now aliens. They all go to a high school together. It's the whole plot of the film. At one point, the werewolves, somebody comes near one of the werewolves, and the werewolf goes, and does like and she's all got like little ears and everything. And then the werewolf person, she was like, no, mine. And I was like, what in the Tumblr fucking AO3 fanfic awfulness is this shit? Anyway, we watched the entirety of Zombies 3. It did almost fucking kill me. None of it made sense. It's so fucking cringe. It's so Disney Channel. It's unreal. And at the end of it, once it finished, I was just like, Dave, I think that's actually killed all my belief in cinema. It's genuinely like taking it out of me. That was so bad, so utterly, utterly terrible, and has probably made them so much money that it has ruined
the joy
of cinema going forwards. And Dave was like, oh, there's an animated series, let's just click it on for 2 minutes. So I'm sitting there, a husk, like a full
empty, nothing left,
all my insides out of me. Like, what do? I loved cinema and now I don't. What am I going to fill my days with? And this animated fucking show starts, and in the animated show, the aliens are there, but it's called like Zombies, the freshman year. But the aliens who came in the third film, which is when they're all graduating, are in it. And at the beginning, the fucking main zombie is like, wait, so why are the aliens here? And another character says, how about we just don't reference it and we just live our lives and we crack on with it and never reference this conversation ever again? And I said, they don't even care. They don't even care anymore to explain the bollocks to make it work within their universe. They're just telling you, the viewer, don't care. We don't care. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want. Now that we've got these characters that have made us money, we're going to put them together in a freshman year. None of it makes sense. Yes, there's time travel now because it's in the theme song, but we'll never explain it. And it's not, and I know that I've just said I don't want things over-explained, but there are some things you have to explain, right? You have a canon. You can't just do whatever the fuck you want. But Disney are now. And that's what we are. That's what, not us, but that's what children are just slopping down, sucking it on. I'm so fucking upset. And
the disrespect.
It is the disrespect. No, it is the disrespect. And I said to Dave, so after already being genuinely hurt and upset that Disney had released such a utter piece of shit, and children were watching it and thinking it's cinema and watching this being like, well, it's good film. They then get given that. And I'm like, who cares? James sat there and Dave was fucking buckled. Dave was like, are you okay? And I'm like, tears running down my face. Like, no, I actually am upset. I'm actually upset that I am, to these people, a pound sign. And it's so upsetting.
You know that moment in The Simpsons where it's Homer, I think he's in hell, and there's like a machine with donuts into his mouth, That's what we as... I hate to use the word consumers, but that's what we are now. We are consumers. We are to open our mouth. Disney is, or
you're 100% right.
Or film studios are to extend their large schlong with donuts and just go, eat, you little piggy. Take more. You want it, don't you? We're just go.
The unfortunate bit of this is that gag in The Simpsons is so fucking funny because it then cuts to Homer being massive and the demon, like, there's like 3 donuts left and the demon's like, oh my god.
He's just like, fuck. But to be fair, that is
what Disney wants us all to be.
But that's what some people also are. They just keep going, yes, more. That's
the problem.
To bring us back round to the decade thing, that's what the 2010s became for us.
Well, and it's where we're now, and that is literally the 2020s. That's where children's cinema now is. That's
where it came to with the franchises, with franchise filmmaking, with streaming services, with your Marvels, your Disney, even now like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, they've all just been turned into like
Rusherim and the Rings of Power.
Here's another donut, eat it up, keep eating, you little fight, and we just go and then we sit and go.
No, you're right. The donut analogy is perfect because it's just they want us to keep eating, keep consuming, and annoyingly and unfortunately, the people that are just continuing to eat it are the ones. Yeah, you're right. Oh, that was slightly wrong and this was wrong and you did it slightly differently, and it's like just I know I'm kind of, it feels like I'm kind of going against myself when I say I want there to be continuity in canon, because otherwise what's the fucking point? But at the same time I don't need every tiny minute detail to be explained to me. And it's interesting if you look back at an 80s film to a film that is now. So these are big names, but Indiana Jones, and we'll go with any Star Wars thing after, and even included Rise of Skywalker. Indiana Jones, I don't know if it was a gag necessarily, but just had that penchant for being like, here's Indiana Jones and his sidekick who's brand new, and the love interest who's brand new. They never follow on, except Marion Ravenwood eventually came back.
Pulpy adventure movies.
Pulpy adventure films. And Indiana Jones is now going to take you to meet a librarian for the Great Library of Alexander, and he walks in, and then Indiana Jones goes, "Sylar!" and they clap hands, and that's it. You are instantly understand. Indiana Jones has history with this man, never explained.
I know where you're going with this.
Maybe you get a moment where they go like, "Yeah, that time on the boat back in '94 or '74," and he's like, "74, Indy,
what a time, eh?
What a time." That's it though. Compared to anything Star Wars, where it's like, "Who's this character?" Do you remember the robot 3 rows back next to Jabba the Hutt from Star Wars Revenge of the Jedi, or whatever the fuck, Return of the Jedi?
That was the original time.
Was originally grey, now he's green in the Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett Season 5. And we're going to do an entire episode on who that robot was and why he's gone from brown to green. And it's like... I don't.
Why?
Please don't. How about that?
Yeah, I think the overall summary when it comes to the 2010s
and 20s, mainly the 20s.
I mean,
it's really annoyingly, I feel like the 10s into the 20s. Very little's changed.
Nothing has changed.
The 10s and 20s we're still getting the big hitters, and when we get I know we're doing our usual like griping, but when we get the big hitters, everything everywhere all at once, there are still a few names who are really trying to fucking do cinema.
100%.
Bong Joon-ho is one of these names.
Even though Mickey 17 wasn't good, but
I wasn't a problem with it. Even though there's a couple of names still trying to do it, but the 10s to the 20s, it's been so capitalized and corporatalized that
so much that everything has.
It's becoming difficult.
I think this is like a topic we're going to discuss in the future, is that film and TV has just become content.
Yes.
And for me at this point, I'm so far removed from whatever the big hitters are doing now. I don't watch the new Lord of the Rings stuff. I'm not interested in the new Harry Potter show. I don't watch any of the things Star Wars anymore. I'm playing the game right now, Jedi Survivor. That's quite fun, but that's because it's its own thing.
Yeah.
I'm not watching Disney Plus shows. I'm not watching anything Marvel. I don't care anymore because none of it feels like movies anymore. I just want to go and watch a good fucking movie. That's what I want these days. I want your Bong Joon-ho's. I want your Guillermo del Toro's when he does the Frankenstein movie this year. I want Paul Thomas Anderson. Sadly, David Lynch is gone. We won't get another movie from him. Rest in peace. But I want films from little filmmakers or even well-established filmmakers just doing films like we did in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. Fuck it, even the early 2000s, there was some really good stuff in there. Now, more than ever, and this feels so like soapboxy, like you ruined my childhood. But now more than ever for me, film feels like there's either something big, something really small, and nothing in between.
Well,
and
everything in between is everything in between it is just the corporate sludge. It's just the do you want to see this colorful what's the word I'm looking for? Money pit, this colorful thing colorful IP mess that we've made. No, well, that's all you're getting for us.
Yeah, I guess
so
when I say big, is what I mean is like.
You mean proper thing? Yeah, proper filmmakers film.
Yeah, like a piece of cinema.
Like a Yorgos Lanthimos or a Bong Joon-ho or a Ari Aster or a Gert Wig.
Someone out there doing something that's different, or something small, which is like, this was made for podunk amount of money. No one will think about it.
Your Jim Cummings, Thunder Road, fucking things like that.
Like I recently just watched a movie called La Coquina. It's this tiny little black and white movie about chefs in New York, and I fucking loved it. And it was just this little movie that I went off and I watched. And everything in between, all the sludge, I don't care anymore. And I don't feel like I go to the cinema as much as I used to anymore because there's just a lot of sludge.
Yeah. It's colourful sludge. Colourful IP sludge.
So in summary, which decade do we think is the best decade? I have my answer. I already knew my answer coming in. But after this long discussion, perhaps too long, what would you say is your favourite decade?
So my favourite movies of all time now, in the year of our Lord 2025, Sonic 3, the Super Mario Brothers movie. I loved Avengers Endgame when Captain America said Avengers Assemble. Best moment in cinema history, I think. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the upcoming Spider-Man, We Are the Multiverse, Spider-Verse. I like Iron Man 1, 2, 3. I like that Iron Man's coming back. He's going to be Doom. I like the Ant-Man films.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of the Meandering Movie Podcast. This has been episode 1 of season 4 of the Meandering Movie Podcast.
What was your favorite decade? I do need to know. I really want to know. I was being a pedantic little shit there, but we'll go on. What is your actual favorite? What year would you say? Personally, if I'm being serious, I think, and I'm not saying this because of the nostalgia,
but you probably are.
Well, it's unfortunate. It's almost impossible.
I love how we've just fucking ragged on people for just getting upset. But you're about to say the decade that has all the movies you're nostalgic for.
But I'm not. I don't think I am. I think I'm going to talk. I genuinely think, because I think the 2000s was the most formative for me. But I truly, truly, truly think that the last 15 years of cinema has films in it that have stayed with me and have molded me more. Farewell, Ghost Story. Spider-Verse is one of them. I'm not going to lie. It's one of my all-time favorites, and it's the best, in my opinion, comic book film ever.
Mortal Engines, that sort of thing.
But even if I stop there, those 3 films, Everything Everywhere All at Once, they all came out in the last 15 years. So I'm going to say 10. All of these films are the last 15, 10, the 10's up, and they are my favorite film. Moon, I think, is 2009, which I'm raging about because it's perfect. But you know what I mean? So I personally, for me, 2010. I suppose
like when we started this podcast and we wanted to do this podcast, the movies you've always enjoyed talking about and want to talk about and will always bring back up are all these movies you've just talked about from like the 2000s to the 2015s kind of area.
I think we are in an age where when cinema hits, holy fuck does it hit. Holy fuck. And I think it's because of everything that's come before it. There's no denying that. But when we get a 3 Billboards, or when we get a The Farewell, or when we get a Ghost Story, and we get these, I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about these films and talking about it. When we get these movies that are allowed to spread their wings and do what they want to do without being tied to, well, it's going to make $1 million, or it's going to make $1 billion. It's going to be the Electric State with Millie Bobby Brown.
What IP is it connected to?
It's going to be okay. It's going to be a comic book that we've turned into a film.
Have you got Millie Bobby Brown to star in it?
Like when they're not being forced to do this, and these filmmakers are allowed to actually do film. Holy fuck, we're at a point in time where vision, thanks to technological advancements, can be
it's unlimited,
and it's incredible.
Limitless.
So for me, it's unfortunately few and far between, but the hits, the homers, the fucking fireworks going off, untouchable in the last 15 years. And it's hopefully...
Oh, The Untouchables came out in the 90s.
So that's my answer.
Sorry, The Untouchables
Gav,
came out in the 80s.
what's your answer?
Yeah, but I think, not to rag on the 2010s, there are lots of great movies. I said there's sludge. There is so much goodness
There's
out
so
there.
much sludge.
Like when I watched...
We're both right.
Like The Iron Claw or The Zone of Interest or Poor Things, like movies like this. Like, there are still incredible movies coming out there, and I love going to the cinema to watch all these movies. I'm not ragging on any of that and what is out there. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Movies like that. But for me, when I look at like the freedom and the creativity and the breadth of... I'll do it so you don't have to, of what cinema can be. I think the 70s for me.
Yeah.
Or the 80s. Like it's 70s into the 80s, especially the early 80s.
Right on
but
the cusp.
70s is like, it has Alien in there, it has Halloween, it has everything by Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah. The Conversation with the late, great Gene Hackman is one of the best movies I think ever made. Apocalypse Now is one of the greatest movies I think ever made. Like, it just has so much for me in the range of cinema that I love. And so, yeah, when I looked at these lists coming in, I was like, it's the 70s for me.
Yeah.
It's just, but I could easily, any given Sunday, not the movie, but any given Sunday, I could be like, I want a schlocky 90s. Like, I recently watched it's a Kurt Russell movie where he's just him and his wife gets kidnapped, and then they're just getting fucked over by truckers that are trying to steal money from them. It's this random, forgettable little movie from the 90s, mid-budget. I was like, I can't remember its name.
Is it the one that they reference in Dumb and Dumber?
The one they reference in
in Dumb and Dumber when they go into that truck stop and then Lloyd's like, I picked up this little trick. And he's like, hey, Seabass, I'm really sorry about this. We're going to buy you your next round of drinks. It's on me and my buddy here. And Seabass is like, yeah, you better be. And then Lloyd goes up to the bar and he goes, we're getting a round of drinks on Seabass. And the bartender's like, for real? And he's like, Seabass. And Seabass goes like, and puts his hand up to wave. And he's like, well, if Seabass is paying. And then Harry goes, he also said we could grab it. And he grabs loads of shit. The gag being that in the next scene they're driving away and he's like, holy shit, where did you learn that, Lloyd? He's like, I seen it in a movie. And he's like, wow, what happened in the movie? He's like, oh, well, the truckers caught up and killed the family.
No, it was not that movie. But I liked your description of what happened.
Good, good gag.
A movie called Breakdown with Kurt Russell from the 90s. Great little movie with great little character actors. But yeah, any given Sunday I could jump from 70s, 80s or 90s. That's where I like to exist for the most part. But if I want my artsy wanky stuff as well, 2010. So really my answer is the 70s, but also every other decade. Cinema is great. There have been great movies over many decades. Do you know what else is great? The first episode of season 4 of episode 1 of the Meandering Movie Podcast.
We got there.
Now on YouTube. Still on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts as well.
And all good podcast deliverers like
in
Acast.
the comments down below, tell us which your favourite decade of cinema is and why.
If you are, and just while we're here, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for taking a punt on this. I appreciate it's kind of just a pretty basic setup of two guys sitting on a couch talking about cinema. But
seems to work for everyone else.
We're here now. But if you do hit the subscribe button and if you put on the notifications, that'd be fantastic.
If you're on
Spotify listening to this and you haven't followed us yet, I know it's a really minor thing, but following us does help us grow.
And the wee rating.
Apple, I was going to say, for all podcasts, if you could hit the like and follow button, and for wherever you're listening to it, if it has a comment or a review or a rating system, please leave us comments and reviews. You're going to hear this more and more going forwards because, unfortunately, from all of the seminars I've been going to about growing your business, you have to do it. And as much as I hate doing it, there is a huge uptick when we do ask for it, which is
earlier when
annoying,
we did the donut metaphor about just have more of our donuts in your mouth, we're now doing that for our content.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky, on YouTube, on Spotify, in the description, there's links for all of it. On YouTube, every single episode of this podcast now exists. None of it has us visually in it. There's a fun little screensaver there, and you can
remember that DVD screensaver logo where the logo bounces around.
That's all there for you.
I made that.
So please Help us grow. We want to grow. We love doing this. We love sharing movies with you. We love talking movies. This is going to be a great season of the Meandering Movie Podcast because it's new, it's exciting, it's different.
Gav, watch this. This is just for the people on YouTube.
If you're listening to this, you will never know what happens.
Unless you go to YouTube.
You should go to YouTube. Subscribe, like, notifications. Thank you so much. We'll see you for episode 2 soon. Oh, yeah, in fact, I'll do it in the next episode. Doesn't matter. Bye!
Music is life.